Hello, welcome, and thank you for joining us today. I am thrilled to be in Tokyo, one of the most creative places in the world. And it's not just me who thinks this. Adobe does all sorts of research around creativity and industry trends globally, and you'll be pleased to know that globally, Japan is recognized as the most creative country in the world. And Tokyo is actually considered the most creative city in the world. So it is an honor to be with you today, share the latest innovation from Adobe, and meet the creative leaders in your community. For the past decade, my passion has been connecting and empowering the creative world through Behance, a platform to showcase and discover creative work. Now, as part of Adobe, thousands of projects are being published every single day, and we have a very active community in Japan as well. The last time I was here, I was visiting with my entire Behance design team. We spent time in Tokyo and Kyoto and met with members of the creative community. So it's exciting to be back again and sharing some of the latest and greatest Adobe mobile and desktop apps and services that empower creative people in extraordinary ways. Of course, creativity doesn't come from tools. Creativity, it comes from the people using them. Japanese design and creativity has a huge impact on how the rest of the world creates. And that's why we're here in the most creative city in the world, sharing the latest innovations with you. Over the past few years, we have spent a lot of time trying to understand how the mobile and social worlds are transforming creativity. It became very clear that creativity needs to be extended beyond the desktop. And this is the vision for the future of creativity that inspired Creative Cloud. What is Creative Cloud? Creative Cloud is your desktop apps, your mobile apps, and services that enhance your creative process, all working together. As you're about to see, Creative Cloud is all about connectivity. Today, I'm thrilled to announce the 2015 release of Creative Cloud. We focused on 3 themes for this launch. The first is precision and performance. The tools get out of your way with a better user experience and huge performance improvements in apps like Illustrator and Photoshop and Lightroom, allowing you to focus on your craft. The second theme is connected apps. Our applications are no longer constrained to the desktop. Each is a family of connected apps across mobile and desktop. And then third, today we are announcing Creative Sync, a new technology that connects your creative process across all of the apps and services that you use. Creative Sync keeps your assets and some new things that we will share with you today at your fingertips. Creative Sync is the heart of Creative Cloud. It connects your apps, it keeps your assets updated, and extends your workflows beyond the desktop. Without Creative Sync, all of our apps would just be that, apps, working in isolation. But with Creative Sync, your creative experience is connected in transformative ways. Creative Sync makes all of your assets, fonts, files, and asset libraries available to you across every app and device you are using. Just drag and drop assets into and out of libraries and create without friction. Creative Sync brings the power of fonts into your desktop, mobile, and web creations. Creative Sync enables mobile to desktop workflows where you can capture and create wherever you are and continue your work on the desktop. And Creative Sync enables collaboration to share your files and libraries and work with others. It also lets you quickly publish your work to Behance for exposure and opportunity. And Creative Sync brings literally millions of design elements and images into your workflow. So it's clear, Adobe is no longer a desktop software company. As you will see today, Creative Cloud has transformed Adobe and how the creative world works. The 2015 release is all about the next generation of mobile and desktop apps and services deeply connected by Creative Sync. So let's get started. One of the key frustrations in the creative process is finding great assets and incorporating them into your work. Until today, working with stock imagery has been a very manual and cumbersome process without any integration into your workflow. Well, today I'm thrilled to announce Adobe Stock, a collection of over 40 million images integrated into your creative apps, enabling you to try, use, and license the best stock photography in the world. I want to invite up my colleague, Eric Snowden, to show us Adobe Stock and how Creative Sync connects to your workflow. Eric.
Thanks, Scott. Thank you, Scott. I'm really excited to share Adobe Stock with all of you for the first time on stage today. And like Scott just said, Adobe Stock is a collection of over 40 million high-quality images, and it's deeply integrated into our desktop and mobile tools using Creative Sync. So let's get started. I'm going to create a new design, and in order to do that, I need to collect a few assets to start out. So on Adobe Stock website, I'm going to do a search for mountain in Japan. And as you can see, tons of really beautiful, high-quality images come up. When I see an image I like, I can just click on it and get more information about that image. So inside of Adobe Stock, there are two different options for using images. One, I can just download a preview, a watermarked version of the image, into a Creative Cloud library via Creative Sync. And that library will be connected to all of my different applications. Or if I find an image I know I want to use, I can license it directly on the site. But for today, I want to just try a few different images to see which one's going to work best. So I like this image. I can go ahead and click here to download a preview into my library. And then once that's downloaded, I can find one or two other images that I think might be good candidates. And I've just very quickly downloaded 3 different images and synced them across my devices. So to get started on this design, I'm actually going to go over to my iPad and use Adobe Comp CC. Now, Adobe Comp CC is a design application for the iPad that speeds up the beginning part of the design process. You're creating different ideas and different variations on a design. I'm going to go ahead and launch the application and create a new document. Quite a few preset sizes here to make it easy to get started. I'm going to click on iPad Landscape. And when we were thinking about comp, we looked at the design process and saw many designers, like myself, start out by drawing with a pencil on a piece of paper. And that's a great way to get started, but a lot of that work doesn't translate to digital. It's throwaway, and you have to start over once you get to your computer. We thought we could do better. So inside of Adobe Comp, we have something we call draft mode. And draft mode allows me to draw an entire design just using my finger on an iPad. So as you can see, I can draw an X on the left-hand side of the screen. That's going to create an image placeholder. I can draw a rectangle with a period at the end of it, and Comp is going to turn that into a headline. A line to create a separator inside of my design, and then another rectangle with 2 lines inside of it to create body copy. And so very quickly, I've started to create something that resembles a design. But I want to go beyond just a wireframe. I want to flesh this out a little bit more. So if I click on the picture box, I go into my images panel, and I go into that same library, you'll notice all of the images that I was using in Adobe Stock are now showing up inside of Comp. I can select an image, double tap on the image to place it inside of the window, and I've got something that's starting to look a little bit more like a fleshed out design. So the problem I have with this design right now is the typography. The headline isn't quite bold enough for me. I want a little bit bolder font. And for that, I'm going to go back to my desktop and go to Adobe Typekit. And Adobe Typekit is a service that comes as part of Creative Cloud that gives designers access to thousands of high-quality fonts to use when creating websites or designing on their desktop or mobile devices. And today we're announcing a public preview of Adobe Stock, or Adobe Typekit, with Japanese fonts for the very first time. As you can see on the left-hand side of the screen, we have new classifications for Typekit that allow you to filter and find Japanese fonts. So I like this one here quite a bit in the upper left-hand corner. If I click on it, I can see more information about the font. I'm looking for a bold font, so I think this actually looks pretty good. Within Typekit, I can actually also see how it scales up and down, what it looks like on a white background or a black background, a lot of information about this font. Once I've found a font I want to use, I can click on the Add button, and I have two different options for using this font. First, I want to talk about using this font on the web. So if you're designing or building a website, you can use this font to render the text on your web page. If I click on the Web tab and add this to a kit, there's a brand new option that's part of Typekit today called Dynamic Subsetting. So as you may know, Japanese fonts can have 20,000 or more characters. They can be very large, 8 megabytes, 9 megabytes in size, not making them very suitable for the web. But in Typekit, Dynamic Subsetting allows you to only download the characters you need as you need them, so the web page loads as fast as possible. A really great new innovation from the Typekit team. But today, I actually want to use this font on my iPad and my desktop computers, and for that, I'm going to go to the Sync tab. So inside of Sync, I can actually connect this font and use it on multiple devices. I only want the bold version, so if I uncheck regular, and I click this button here, this font is then going to sync to all of my different devices so I can use it anywhere. So at this point, if I go back to my iPad to Comp, I can select my headline font, I can go into the Type menu, click on Fonts, and as you can see, I have access to the different fonts that I synced from Typekit. And I can make this headline bold and make it just slightly larger than what I had before. This comp is starting to shape up. I actually want to edit this text as well. I'm going to go into line and letter spacing just to give it a little bit of space. And just in a few minutes, I was able to mock up something as a rough design on my iPad. So at this point, I'm ready to continue work on this, but I want the full power of my desktop tools. Comp lets you send files directly from the iPad to the desktop for further editing. If I click on the Share menu, I have options to send this composition to InDesign, Photoshop, or Illustrator. Today, I want to send to Photoshop. And so what's happening now is Comp is taking all of my fonts, my text reference, the image from Adobe Stock, any vectors that I put into this document, everything that I've done here, it's packaging them up into one package, and it's sending it from my iPad to my desktop computer via Creative Sync. When this arrives in Photoshop, I'll actually be able to fully edit this file on my desktop. So you can see it says sent. If I put down my iPad and go back to my desktop computer, inside of Photoshop, the file opens up. I'm going to go ahead and create a background color. I'm going to use blue from this image. And as you can see, if you look at my layers panel, my fonts are fully editable. I can turn all of my layers on and off. This line has come through as a vector. And my image here has come in as a smart object with a mask. So being really thoughtful about how the file comes from the iPad over to the desktop computer for further editing. There are two more changes I want to make to this file before I'm done. I'm not quite happy with this image I've chosen. I want something a little bit different. I'm going to turn off this image here. I'm going to select a new image from my library. And this is one of the other images that I found on Adobe Stock. I'm going to make it larger, and then mask it slightly so it's similar to the image I already had. And that actually is great. I'm really happy with the way this looks. So I can actually license this image for use to remove the watermark right inside of Photoshop. If I right-click on this image and click License, and then click OK, this is going to download a high-res, non-watermarked version of this image from Adobe Stock. So in the past, if I wanted to license a watermarked image, I would have had to go back to the website where I found the image, do the exact same search again, find the same image, download it a second time, replace it inside of my document. It was a pretty long process to get from having a watermarked version to an unwatermarked version. But with Adobe Stock, we make that much, much simpler. So while this is downloading the high-res version, there's one last change I want to make to this file. I want to remove this line that separates the headline and the body text, and you can see the image just came through. I'm going to go ahead and turn off that vector object. And for this next step, I'm going to actually go to my Android phone to use Adobe Brush CC. And Adobe Brush is a capture application that uses your camera to create brushes that can be used inside of Photoshop, Illustrator, or Photoshop Sketch. I'm going to launch my camera here, and everything that my camera sees can be turned into a brush. I have this beautiful drawing of a flower I want to use to turn into a brush. I can very simply get rid of the paper texture just by clicking on the background, and it automatically keys it out for me, really great. Once I take the photo, it crops my image, and adjusts the crop just slightly so I'm not missing any of the detail. And when I click on the check mark, Brush is going to suggest a series of different brushes for me. And since I know I want to use this in Photoshop, I'm going to select this first Adobe Photoshop CC brush. Then I land in a piece of paper, a scratch pad, where I can test out my brush and see how it's going to perform. So this looks great to me. I think this would make a nice border. And once I'm happy with this, if I click the check mark, I can just name this brush, Flowers. And again, using Creative Sync, this is being synced into that same library that I used in Comp, in Photoshop, in Stock. Everything is connected via Creative Sync. If I go back to Photoshop, you'll notice the brush is already waiting for me. It's already here in my Libraries panel. So I can select that brush, create a new empty layer to paint into, make that brush just slightly larger, select a white color, and paint. So let's recap what we've done here. I started out on the Adobe Stock website and downloaded a series of preview images to get started. I then went to my iPad into Adobe Comp and laid out my rough design, using Typekit fonts for the first time on a mobile device. I then sent that entire file from my iPad to my desktop computer. From there, I did some edits, and I licensed an image from Adobe Stock directly inside of Photoshop. I then went to an Android phone, Brush is also available for iOS, and created a new brush that I used in that document. So I used two different websites, an iPad application, an Android application, and Photoshop on my desktop, all together to create this design. That's the power of Creative Sync. Thank you very much.
As you can see, the 2015 release of Creative Cloud makes your creativity more connected than ever before. Your apps work together, and your fonts and stock are always in sync, fully integrated into your tools.